Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to the Weekend Eve. I am Brian Kress, the Awesome Voice. This is Any Given Sunday on KUAW. Across from me is my brother with another mother, Darwin Penny, Coach 24. How are you doing this evening,
We're
sir?
doing great this evening. We're excited to be here and looking forward to another great sports weekend.
Absolutely. And running the show behind the scenes, DJ Scatter, George Walker. How are you doing this evening, sir?
I'm doing super fantastic.
So, how you got? Did you guys have a great weekend?
Absolutely, it was a great weekend. Every day for me is a day of Thanksgiving, but to be able to go and spend some time at home and be around my mother in particular and other family members, it made for a great weekend.
Absolutely. Mr. Walker.
Oh yeah, we had too much turkey. Had a lot of grandkids and some great grandkids over, and it was a great time.
Oh, that's awesome. So, and I spent time at my sister's house with. I only had one of my kids and his family, but I had my sister and my parents, and we just had a great weekend. So, or a great Thanksgiving, and then I had to go back to work. And so, as we keep going this Christmas season, it's going to get harder and harder, and hopefully, I will be able to continue on at least having a show, at least me being on the show for the next several Thursdays. So, but saying that, let's get into. We'll talk football in a few moments, but I want to start off with the Royals. Yesterday, I saw that they had signed a player that had played for the Marlins, and also talking about question marks about the stadium issues.
Yeah, the Royals have made some small transactions to start off what is the free agency time of the year. We know November 1st is when players can elect to become free agents. Teams have an opportunity to tender them a contract for the 2024 season, and if they choose not to tender, then the player automatically becomes a free agent, or a player can reject the tender and become elect free agency. And so the Royals yesterday signed Garrett Hampson. Garrett Hampson will bring some versatility to the plate. He had his best year last year as a major leaguer with the Marlins. He can play shortstop. He can play second base. He can play third base. He can play all the outfielders. So what he brings is an opportunity to have a super utility player, which was important. We had a person that could play multiple positions like that when we had Whit Merrifield. His ability to play the outfield and in the middle infield, second base primarily, but we did play him some at first as well. And so it's going to be important that we have flexibility within the lineup, guys that give you an opportunity to rest some of your everyday starters and then can fill in. But at the end of the day, I think he's also going to get an opportunity to come in and compete for a job at second base potentially. And see how that works. And so he's a valuable asset, still is in the prime of his career, and hopefully he can bring something to that. We also re-signed Diego Hernandez, who had been a long-time minor league prospect for us. We were able to do that. And then we did a small deal with the Braves, trading Jackson KUAW to the Braves for right-handed pitcher Kyle Wright and right-handed pitcher Nick Anderson. And so KUAW was part of the big three that we drafted pitchers back in 2018, along with Brady Singer in particular. And so had not really fulfilled his potential. Same thing with Kyle Wright with Atlanta, who we're getting in return, but he also can have the opportunity to come in and be one of our back end of the rotation starters. And so at this time, the Royals are trying to piece together some things that would be financially solvent, but at the same time try to put a better team out there that's equipped to go and compete for the American League Central.
Sounds great. Now, saying that, I guess the winter meetings are going to start happening within the next week or two. What are the Royals, in your opinion, what are the Royals needing to obtain through these meetings?
Well, pitching, pitching, and more pitching. Right. We've got to shore up our pitching staff. For the last 3 years, we've been at or near the bottom on both starting and relief pitching, and so it's important for us to shore up that staff and see who's going to be a legitimate number one. We feel like Cole Reagan's in the deal that we made with the Rangers last year for Aroldis Chapman will be that number one starter. Hopefully, we can find that consistency all year with Brady Singer, but we certainly would like to find another starter to go, and perhaps Jackson could be one of those that fills in that role, and then identify some guys. We need left-handed help in the bullpen to find somebody who can be possibly either the closer or setup man as a lefty in the bullpen. And then I think you need to create some competition. We need to create some competition at second base to try to figure out we're pretty set on the left side of the infield. We know what Bobby Witt did last year, and we expect only for him to continue to get better. Maikel Garcia had his first really full season in the major leagues. He had an outstanding year and also gave us an opportunity to see that we had a leadoff man. But I think there are going to be some competitions in some outfield spots, right? Is Isabel really truly our center fielder, or, we're going to be able to find somebody else to push him to either get better or somebody to possibly be the center fielder. I mean, we've been kind of spoiled at center field for, pretty much the last decade with Locane and what he was able to do. And then Michael A. Taylor came in and brought Gold Glove defense to center field, which we have the largest center field in all of baseball. We've got more ground to cover. Will Melendez continue to progress and achieve that 30 to 40 home run potential that he has? Velasquez was a shot in the arm the last part of the year. We had him for such a small time after acquiring him from the Cubs, and he hit 17 home runs. Almost half of his hits that he had as a Royal were home runs. And so was that something out of the ordinary with him coming over from the National League and maybe pitchers didn't know him, or is that something that's going to trend up for him and turn into that 40 home run guy? I think we need some additional left-handed power off the bench, and I think we'll be looking for some people to fill those roles, and hopefully we'll be able to get some of our guys that were injured back this year, and then hopefully still have another great year from Salvi. And then we were able to find out that we did have some depth at catching last year, and so with Freddie Fermin, and so he did a great job behind the plate. So, but I think the key, as everybody that knows baseball, it begins and it ends with pitching.
Absolutely. So, saying that, what do you think? And it's too early to tell because we don't know who we're getting. I don't know if we're getting like veteran players, say like a Jason Hayward type player. I mean, he already signed with the Dodgers, so obviously he's not going to be there. But how much do the Royals need to get players like a Jason Hayward?
Well, I think it's important, without revealing all of my information as an employee. We had conversations around Hayward and what he could bring. I think it is going to be important that we bring somebody that has veteran leadership, somebody who has been there and had success, but also could be somebody who would be a clubhouse leader. Opposite Salvi. Salvi is the guy who keeps everybody loose. I think there's somebody who has to come in and possibly light a fire and be the accountability person, the enforcer, if you will. And so I do think that based on our conversations that we've had within the organization, we are looking to find a player similar to a Jason Hayward who, may not be an everyday player, but still has something left in the tank to add not only physically, but a presence in the clubhouse would mean so much. I go back to the 2017 Astros and their ability to bring in Carlos Beltran because it was what they needed. They had so many young players that were rising stars with the Altuves and the Correas and the Bregmans and the Springers, but they needed I always say you need an old dog in the clubhouse. Somebody that keeps the young puppies under control and really show them how to be professionals and then help them through learning how to win, because you do have to learn how to win, right? It's not just based on talent, but guys who can come and bring something that when the team is struggling, call that players only meeting where it's not coming from the staff, but their own self-governance. And so I'm a huge believer in that, and I think our organization as a whole is looking for options like that.
Well, I know that the Royals are, they've had a down year for the past 4 or 5 years. So saying that, I do see a bright future. Now, when it's going to happen, I don't know when, but hopefully it will be this coming up year in 2024. So, and we can I was going to discuss about the stadium and stuff, but I think we'll wait for another time because we've got to talk football. Now, here's the funny thing. The Chiefs played Sunday in Vegas. They finally started scoring in the second half. They actually went 17 second-half drives without scoring any points, and they finally got a touchdown. They ended up scoring, I believe it was 17 points in the second half in a 31-14 victory over the Vegas Raiders. But there are still people that are complaining about the Chiefs. Yes, would I like to see them score 40 points a game? Yeah, absolutely. But you're not going to get that this year. But I still think that they are still the team to beat in the AFC.
Yeah, I think they've shown that consistency over the years, and I think we always are going to give the edge in a quarterback-driven league to Patrick Mahomes. It was my fear the very first year that he started at quarterback and he threw 50 touchdowns and only 8 interceptions, and I said that may be the highest he ever throws, and it set a standard that was so high that I think sometimes we can have real unrealistic expectations here within the city of Kansas City, and that every win's not going to be a win by 20, 25 points. Sometimes you're just going to have to eke out a 3-point win. And just like, you expect the Chiefs to get better, well, every other organization is trying to get better too, right? And people go out and they play hard, and then it's important for them as a measuring stick, other teams to say, where do we measure up against the Chiefs, especially if you are an AFC team and you want to say that's the team to beat, and we want to see where we match up against them, and we're going to give them every bit of an opportunity to go out and try to beat them. The game against the Eagles a few weeks back, well, the Chiefs were pretty much in control of that game until the second half and let it get away, and still really were one non-fumble away from controlling that game. And so I think there are still just some things that, as a fan, as a observer of the game, that they still need to shore up. But what once may have been a large gap between them and the AFC is not. There's some good teams out there. The Ravens are a good team. They're gonna be a force to be reckoned with. I think there's still inconsistency in Buffalo. The reality of it, I think the other 3 best teams in the NFL are in the NFC. And, people at the beginning of the year said, well, the AFC is so much better than the NFC. Well, I think when you talk about the top teams, the depth of the NFC, when you talk about the Eagles, you talk about the 49ers, you talk about the Cowboys, have separated themselves. And then the AFC, the Chiefs, Cincinnati is not what they were. Joe Burrow's gone, and so they're not the same team. What would Cleveland be like with consistency at quarterback? They've shown defensively that they can go out and can compete with anybody. The Dolphins are a very, very explosive offense, and then they're really good at home. Will they learn how to win on the road? And so, but I think, if I was still a betting man, my money would still be on the Chiefs.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. Right now, the Ravens are the number 1 seed. That's because they've only played one game more than the Chiefs. They have a bye this week. So after this weekend, all the 4 top teams will be equal. But saying that, if you took out the one game that the Ravens had, let's just say the Chiefs, Jacksonville, and Miami all win, Baltimore is the 4th seed. They're not number 1. The Chiefs are still in the number 1 seed. Jacksonville is the number 2 seed. Miami is the 3rd seed, and then the Ravens would be the 4th seed. And then you have the Browns and the Steelers, and then you have the Colts. The Colts are the 7th seed right now, and with the schedule that they're playing, I don't think they really have any major games outside their own division. So who knows? They could pop in there and sneak in for the 10. And then you've got the Bills. Everybody keeps talking about how great the Bills were. Well, people complained about the Chiefs. Look what the Bills did. I mean, Josh Allen really had a phenomenal game. He made one mistake. And unfortunately, that one mistake actually killed him or killed the team.
Yeah. They've been a model of inconsistency, the Bills. At times they've looked really, really good. They were really a play or two away from beating the Eagles, who have the NFL's best record. They've had some other close games that they've allowed to get away from them late in the game. They could actually be dangerous in the playoffs when the expectations are low. And I think right now that's where they are. They're in a situation where the expectations are low. I don't see them winning the division. Miami would have to have a collapse for them to be able to win their division. You mentioned some of the things that are tiebreakers, right? The Ravens have 3 losses, but all 3 of their losses are in conference, and so those are big. And then they have 2 division losses with a 1-game lead over both the Steelers and the Browns. But I still believe that they are the class of the AFC North. I'm still not. I haven't bought into the Steelers yet. I just haven't. I haven't bought into them yet. I think they do some good things defensively, and their quarterback finds a way to be good in the 4th quarter. But for the first 3 quarters, I think if they're in a game where they actually have to score 30 points in a game, they're going to be in trouble, right? And so they're going to try to, keep it low scoring. I think that's going to be their method. But if I was really looking at an AFC Championship game right now, I would be looking at the Dolphins and the Chiefs.
Absolutely. I think it'd be more of Jacksonville. The only problem is Jacksonville is still very green. You got players that, outside of last year's playoff experience, you don't have a lot of experience there. I still think they're a year or 2 away for challenging the Chiefs and Ravens. So, but Miami is still that team that they still have to prove it to me, because Las Vegas went to Miami and almost beat Miami. You would have thought Antonio Pierce has really done a great job with the Raiders, and it just shows, and it proved to me that I was right about Josh McDaniel being a head coach. I don't know why they let some coaches still try to think that they're head coaching material, because they're not. But the Bills, I don't know if the Bills will even make the playoffs because they've got a killer schedule. They got to play Dallas. They got to play Kansas City. I mean, if they make the playoffs, they're going to beat those teams because they can only lose 7 games. If they end up going 9-8, no, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to get in with 8 losses. I would concur with that. So it's going to come down to who gets hot. Right now, it's about playing your best football, in the month of December and trying to move into the playoffs. And so, the question is going to be who's bad enough to come in and win the Arrowhead Invitational, right?
Yep.
Who has that guy? Well, Tom Brady ain't around anymore, right?
Nope.
So who's that quarterback that you feel could come in and be under control, handle if there are elements, a hostile environment, and then just come in and play, right? Most people don't feel like the Chiefs have played their best football yet. And so the question is, when will they? I just think one of the things that they do need to do is at some point in time, they need to establish and lean on a running game and not be so Mahomes dominant, so Kelsey dominant. But at some point in time, Isaiah Pacheco is going to have to take over a game if they're going to win the championship, right? And that's where the expectations is with the Chiefs, is to win a championship, not to win the AFC West and not really even to get to the Super Bowl anymore, but to win a championship, right? The Chiefs have a legacy and a dynasty at stake right now. No dynasty in the NFL has ever been a dynasty and not win back-to-back Super Bowls. And
right.
So and people are calling that, right, because you've had the AFC Championship game for 5 straight years, here in Kansas City. But, I don't think that we can call them a dynasty yet until they win back-to-back Super Bowls.
No, and I totally agree with that. And I will say this, they have been leaning on the running game the last 2 weeks. Now, against Philadelphia, of course, they somehow stopped. Doing.
That's my point, right? When the game gets critical, where's the running game then? I know you want to put the ball in your best player's hand, and I'm not opposed to that.
Right.
But that running game was working.
Yep.
And at some point in time, it has to be all right for Mahomes to go and throw for, 200 yards and you run for 150 plus.
Right. And the thing of it is, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Right. And it's when you run, right? Can you close out a game with the running game and chewing that clock up, and then make that pass when you need to, whether it's opening up the series, on a first down pass and now making it second and short, and now allowing that clock to tick, 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 tick,
yep.
right? Because every time you put that ball in the air, and if it's not caught, then that clock is stopping, and you're giving that other team an opportunity. And so I would agree with you with Jacksonville. They're still, I think, a play or two away. When they had to play against one of the best teams in the NFC, they got handled really, really, at home.
Yeah.
Right? They got handled really bad by the 49ers. And so it just says, okay, we're almost there, but we're not at that upper echelon of teams. But they can definitely control their division, even though the Colts and the Texans are much improved. But I don't think either one of them can beat Jacksonville, as far as winning that division.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you what, Texans were about 10 inches away from at least tying the game and taking it in overtime. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what, Strauss is a great player. But saying this, let's go into the NFC. And I know Philadelphia right now is totally in control. What is it going to take? Now, they play San Francisco in Philadelphia on Sunday, and to be perfectly honest, I'm not being biased. I think it's, as a professional opinion, they should have been on Sunday Night Football. They should have switched it with the Chiefs and the Packers. Make the Chiefs a 3:25 game and made that a Sunday night game, because that was gonna be, or it will be, a great game.
Well, I still think they look at the game of the week as that afternoon game where more people are gathered and looking at the game. I know sometimes that Sunday night matchup does bring about a lot more attention depending on who's playing in that game. But, when you set that schedule at the beginning of the year, you thought the Packers were going to be better than they've played, and they are starting to show some signs, but you want Patrick Mahomes in that primetime game. You want him. He is the face of the NFL, and you want him out there where all those eyes can be on him. And so I do hear you and would acknowledge you. Yeah, that'd be a great opportunity. But I think there's going to be a ton of eyes on that game at 3:45 on Sunday. You're going to have a big game tonight, and you're not competing with that game because whether we acknowledge it or not, there's always a lot of eyes on the Cowboys game.
Oh, absolutely. So, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. In fact, it's going to be one of the better Thursday night games we've had in quite a while. I mean, even the Ravens and the Bengals, you would have thought that was going to be a great game, but then Burrow gets hurt. He's out for the year and ended up being a Baltimore blowout. So this is going to be a great game. When we do go on break, I do have a question that I will ask you. But saying this, what is Dallas going to need to do to try to overtake Philadelphia right now?
They have to control their own destiny. They have to go out and win the games. They cannot be scoreboard watching and worried about what Philadelphia is doing. The first step is going out and playing really well this week and continuing to play well at home. It's amazing how they've started to actually have a little bit of a home field advantage in playing at Jerry World. When they first opened it up, the very first game they played there, they lost, right? And everybody was saying, man, the home field that they used to have in Old Texas Stadium with the hole in the roof where God could see his favorite team, they struggled when they first got into AT&T Stadium. But since then, right now, they have the longest home winning streak at 13 in a row that they've won at home. And the games that they've won at home this year haven't been close, right?
No, every game has been by 20 points or more.
Right. So it's important that they win this game and give themselves a chance should the Eagles falter against the 49ers this week. Then that makes the next week's game have that much more meaning when they do get the Eagles at home. And I think that is a huge, important game for them, regardless if they win the division or not, but just to go out and to compete and beat the Eagles. They competed with them the last time. Some people would actually say they outplayed them, but they need to come away with the win. And then I think if they do win these next two games, it could catapult them into the rest of their schedule with two big games against AFC opponents, being the Bills and the Dolphins. I think that'll be huge. And then a matchup against the Lions later to see truly where are those teams, because I think that could be a potential first or second round matchup between them and the Dolphins, and then close out with the Commanders again on the road. And so the best thing could happen to them is just take care of business 1 week at a time and continue to see that offense progress. But I think the key is going to be at some point in time, they've got to have a big game out of the running game. They've had some okay games, but they haven't had that big game where they've been about 150 yards plus in the running game. And get Pollard going. Maybe he's starting to get going. He's scored a rushing touchdown in the last 2 weeks straight. And so hopefully those are the things that are important to them. The biggest thing for Dallas is the game that's going to come back to haunt them is that Cardinals loss.
Yeah.
Right. That could be the key when you look at how the NFC shapes up moving forward.
Now, saying that, do you see tonight as a possible slip-up for them or them not focusing completely on the Seahawks as they may look to next week?
I don't think so. The game that I thought was the possible trap game was last week. The Redskins, the divisional opponent, it's Thanksgiving. The Redskins always it's always something, right? To me, that was the game. It was a short week, those type of things. But playing at home on Thursday night, I respect the Seahawks, but I don't think that they're in the class of Dallas, the Niners, and the Eagles.
Gotcha.
Or even Detroit.
Absolutely. So we are at halftime on Any Given Sunday on KUAW. Coach 24, DJ Scatter, myself, Awesome Voice. We are going to take a quick break, and then I have a question to ask you afterwards, and then we will do our predictions for the week. All right, we're back for the second half of Any Given Sunday on KUAW. Coach 24, DJ Scatter, and an Awesome Voice. My question is, who do you think is the front runner in the MVP voting right now?
Right now, I think the front runner in the MVP voting is Jalen Hurts. There's always been an ideology that to the winner goes the spoils, and right now the Eagles have the best record in the NFL at 10-1, and he's been a huge part of that. His play late in games, his ability to bring them back from potential losses to make those key plays, right? Do I think he's played quarterback better than anybody else in the NFL? No, I don't think that. But he's been as good as anybody in the clutch moments of the season, and I think as a result of their record, he would be the front runner. For me, Patrick Mahomes would be number 2. Number 3, I would say, would be probably Tyreek Hill. He's still on pace to potentially have 2,000 yards in a season. McCaffrey, you have to have some conversations around him because for me, the 49ers offense is not the same without him. With all due respect to Brock Purdy and Debo and everybody else. And then I think Dak Prescott is to be mentioned in that conversation as well.
Absolutely. Where would you put C.J. Stroud at?
Probably right behind Dak. I would say that he's right in there. But it's going to be hard for anybody to win the MVP if your team does not win their division.
Yeah.
So for me, Dak and CJ are outside looking in right now because despite their statistical numbers, because right now their teams are not in first place. I think there's only been 2 players to win the MVP in this recency that their team did not win their division. So I think it's going to be important. If you do that, then you have to put up some all-time numbers. Well, Dak's putting up really good numbers, but they're not all-time numbers, right? CJ's putting up good numbers, but they're not all-time numbers. And I think if your team doesn't win this division, that's where you're going to have to go with that. So, but I will say this because obviously there was conversation here around Dak and his ability to win that. His ability to win the MVP would come if Dallas runs the table. All of his games are going to be prime time, and people are going to get to see him. And if he continues to play at the rate that he's playing right now, passing at 70+%, over 104 passer rating, the things that if he win tonight, right? Because the knock has been they hadn't beat anybody of any substance, right?
Right.
Despite the fact that when they have won, they've blown teams out.
Right.
But if you go and you run the table against the Seahawks, the Eagles, the Bills, the Dolphins, Detroit, and Washington, I think he would increase his opportunity to win the MVP. Number one, you look at the quarterbacks that he would be going up against in those games.
Right.
Okay. Geno, Jalen Hurts, the front runner, Josh Allen, Tagovailoa, who some people probably have him in the MVP race as well. Jared Goff, who's been a huge part of the reason why the resurgence of the Lions, and then you go and then just sweep out on the Commanders, right? It'll be before the Commanders game, his opportunity, but I think if they run the table, that would also put them at winning like 8 in a row.
Right.
I think that would be his best opportunity to win an MVP.
Right. Well, saying that right now, the mark on them is they have not beaten a team with a winning record. Mm-hmm. Starting tonight, they will play, and I'm going to say Buffalo Bills is the team with a winning record because they've always have. Their next 5 opponents have a winning record, and then you have the Commanders. So if they run the table, as you say, then they've knocked that stick off that everybody keeps saying that they can't win the big game or they can't be a team with the winning record. So, and it does start tonight. But saying that, they have won every game by 20 points, and I want to say that they average something like 35 points a game at home. And so they are playing Seattle tonight at home. So they need to continue on doing that. Now, saying that, Seattle is 6-0 when they score 20 points. I don't see Seattle scoring 26 or 20 points or more against Dallas, because that Dallas defense has been getting better, and they are getting healthy too, outside of losing Diggs.
Yeah, well, Diggs's injury has been a blessing in disguise in the emergence of DaRon Bland. And I pulled up one of those crazy facts this year. We know he set the record on Thanksgiving of having the most interception returns for a touchdown in a season.
Right.
But for some of our listeners out there, DaRon Bland has the same amount of touchdowns as Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler, Josh Jacobs, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, and those are all offensive players. And so that's pretty impressive to have as many touchdowns as those guys, especially when you talk about Kelce and Saquon, guys who you expect to score a lot of touchdowns. And so the defense has played really well. They can get after the passer, and they've been good on the back end with DaRon Bland. Some people are now already talking about, well, what do you do next year? I said, well, Gilmore's a free agent at the end of the year. You can let him walk, right, and put DaRon Bland on the other side and Diggs, and you still have a formidable 1-2 punch. Or if you could get Gilmore to re-sign for a veteran minimum type salary, allow him to probably go inside and cover the slot, or potentially move to safety and see what those options are. But I think those things have been really good. And then, I think Dallas has put themselves to be in a really good position. We were laughing at about their draft last year, and, who are those guys? Well, all those guys in their 2022 draft are making a huge impact on their team. When you talk about Tyler Smith starting at guard, Sam Williams has become a bona fide pass rusher, will probably be the heir apparent to DeMarcus Lawrence. Jalen Tolbert, you're still waiting for him to emerge, but he's starting to factor into the offense a little bit. Jake Ferguson has emerged as the tight end that they needed after losing Dalton Schultz. DaRon Bland speaks for himself. My biggest hope for him is that he gets serious consideration for Defensive Player of the Year. We were talking about MVP earlier. Why wouldn't he be the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year? With all due respect to Micah and to some of the great defensive players that are out there that are having great season, to lead the league in picks and then to have a record-setting season on interceptions returned for touchdowns, that's pretty expressive. And then Damone Clark has been really, really good being a linebacker for them. In the absence of Leighton Vander Esch, we talked about losing Diggs, but Leighton Vander Esch was a huge loss to the Cowboys too, and it may be career-ending for him.
Yep, absolutely. So, and we both have pointed out the importance of the draft. The Chiefs of last year had a great draft. Mm-hmm. Dallas last year had a great draft. You get teams like that can bring in the younger players, because you can't buy you can't. This ain't the New York Yankees or the New York Mets. Mm-hmm. You cannot buy players anymore. You have to pay your quarterback, and then you have to be cheap everywhere else. So saying that, Dallas is really they're going to get better and better as they get along. Now, saying that, do you have the Dallas Cowboys tonight?
Oh yeah, I've got I'm gonna ride with the Cowboys over Seattle tonight.
Absolutely. And obviously we're both wearing Dallas jerseys, so we can make that point. So with that, we're getting into our games predictions. So we've got the Los Angeles Chargers and the New England Patriots. And the New England Patriots have won the last 7 games against the Chargers, and that includes the playoffs. And Herbert needs one more 300-yard passing game to tie a Hall of Famer Kurt Warner and Patrick Mahomes to tie them. But saying that, he, when Dak doesn't get all that prestige and Herbert gets all the prestige, he's still a 500 quarterback.
Right. Well, I think it's about style. People like style. And he's a big, strong, good-looking kid, and he throws. He's got an elite arm. He's got elite tools. Okay, but the bottom line is win games, right? And that's what we see with some of our teams that are winning right now. They may not have quarterbacks with super elite talent, right? Nobody thought Jalen Hurts was super elite coming out of quarterback. What we knew about him was that he was a competitor and that he was a winner, right? And look at how he's doing. Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant, and look at how he's doing. Dak was a 4th-round pick. Look at how he's doing. And so we know the majority of our Hall of Fame quarterbacks have come out of the first round, but the majority of our quarterbacks that have been just solid quarterbacks over their career are guys that are not first round.
Absolutely. So who do you have on the Chargers at New England?
I think the Chargers are due for a win. The Patriots are just they're in disarray at quarterback, and so I'm gonna go with the Chargers.
I always like going with stats of the New England winning 7 straight games against the Chargers, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and continue that trend. I'm gonna pick the New England Patriots. Detroit at New Orleans. New Orleans couldn't score a touchdown. They were in the red zone more times than they were out of the red zone and still couldn't score. They have allowed 17 points or more since the 34-0 shutout of the Patriots. And Laporta, he's on pace to break the tight end receiving yards record.
I think the Lions have to recover from that awful loss that they had on Thanksgiving. Certainly the Lions in Green Bay is a rival match, but I think they recover and beat the Saints.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Atlanta at the New York Jets.
This is a toss-up for me, and I can't believe I'm about to allow this to come out of my mouth. But the Falcons on the road, I'm going to give them the edge just because there's just still so much turmoil about quarterback with the Jets.
They're 1-4 on the road, and the Jets have scored 10 points. When I redo my predictions on Sunday, I don't even know if I'm going to give a score or not. But I'm going to go with the New York Jets.
Okay.
Arizona at Pittsburgh.
I'm going to go with the Steelers just because they've been more consistent than the 2-10 Cardinals.
The only reason why I am going to do that is their defense. And even though Kyler Murray has played or has helped Arizona become more productive on offense, I think Pittsburgh's defense will take control. So I will pick Pittsburgh Steelers too. Carolina at Tampa Bay.
I'm going to go with the Buccaneers.
And I agree with you. And with that, the Carolina Panthers, even though the NFC South is a dismal division, Carolina will officially be eliminated from the playoffs. The Indianapolis Colts at Tennessee.
This is tough for me, man. I've just been disappointed with Tennessee all year. Vrabel, I think, is a really good coach. I don't know, man. Gardner Minshew. I'm gonna go with the Colts.
Well, Indianapolis has won 16 straight games when they get a turnover, which is the longest active streak. Levi is 0-3 on the road, 2-0 at home. And this would be the one where you would say Indianapolis should win. I'm going to go with Tennessee. Miami at Washington.
Miami's just a better team, and so I'm going to go with the Dolphins.
I totally agree with that. Denver. at Houston, and this is one where you would have saw at the beginning of the year and said, okay, two lower ranked teams playing, but these two are actually fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah, the Texans are certainly much improved, and the Broncos have kind of found a stride here in winning 5 games in a row. And I'm gonna go with the Broncos. Man, I'm taking all these road teams this week.
I'm going to pick Houston because Stroud, he does not really turn the ball over. He's only had maybe 1 or 2 bad games where he's done that. If he stays clean in that department, they will beat Denver, and that's why Denver has had their streak, which is the longest streak, tied with I believe Philadelphia. So I've got Houston. The Cleveland Browns at the Los Angeles Rams.
This is my upset of the week. I think I'm going to go with the Rams. The Rams have got their main running back, and they looked a lot different last week with him. I think Stafford is almost healthy. So I'm going to go with the Rams.
I totally agree with that because they don't have a quarterback, and if Joe Flacco plays,
Fluco?
yeah, he ain't gonna do nothing. So I've got the Rams too. San Francisco at Philadelphia, the game of the week.
Man, this is hard. I the Eagles at home, man. It's hard to wrap my mind around them not winning at home. But I think all of their close wins and everything else, and I think their defense has some issues on the back end, and I think the 49ers are going to get them, and so I'm going to go with the 49ers.
I'm going to go with the 49ers for the fact is Trent Williams and Deebo Samuels, when they're healthy, San Francisco is 8-0. Philadelphia have won, but they have they are a good team. They found ways to win. They're not going to do it again.
And that's what a good team does. They find ways to win.
Right, but not this time.
Yeah.
Kansas City at Green Bay.
I'm gonna in the rematch of the first Super Bowl. I'm gonna go with the Chiefs winning this time since Lombardi's not coaching the Packers.
There you go, absolutely. And what was supposed to have been a good Monday Night Football game, it's now Cincinnati at Jacksonville.
I finally get to pick a home team, and so I'm gonna go with the Jags.
Absolutely. So Jags is 15-5 since week 9 of last year, which is the 5th best record in football. So they have been playing very well, and absolutely has done. I will say Doug Peterson has done a tremendous job because Urban Meyer nearly drove that team to
another state.
Yeah, to another state. Absolutely. So
tell me this: what went wrong with Peterson in Philly?
I think what it was the quarterback issue. It was Wentz was supposed to be the starting quarterback, and then Foles came in and he won it. And to be honest, I don't know if they would have won the Super Bowl with Wentz as the as the leading quarterback. I know that they had that one off season, and Philadelphia just said bye. But they're also the same team that let Andy Reid go too.
Yeah, it was just amazing. I could almost, and it was hard to imagine that with Andy Reid because they kept getting close to the championship game. Finally got to the Super Bowl, and okay, maybe we need to change coach just to get over the hump, which wasn't there. But it was amazing how fast they turned on Peterson. And then here he is in Jacksonville doing a bang up job there. So
absolutely. So now we are at the end of our show, but the best segment of the show is now on. Penny, for your thoughts.
Well, this week we're going to move from our main sports of football, basketball, and baseball, and go to one of our favorite pastimes. And when we like to get together, we're going to talk about golf. And so this week we're going to talk about the reemergence of Tiger Woods back to golf. Tiger is going to play in his own Hero World Challenge this week, and so his return to golf is huge. People have not been connected with golf in the absence of Tiger Woods, and we've seen him only 9 times since that horrific accident that he had back in 2021, and so it is good to see him back out on the golf tour, knowing that he's still struggling from the leg injury that he had in that horrible car accident. To think at one time they were actually talking about having to amputate that leg, and for him to be back out on the golf course is going to be a huge ignition into the PGA Tour and going into the 2024 season. The last time we saw him was at the Masters, and he had to withdraw because of the pain associated with his leg. But, he's been able to get out, and we're going to get the chance possibly to see him for a couple of weeks. We'll see him at the father-son with his son Charlie, who, congratulations to Charlie and his high school team in winning a state championship already in his freshman year in high school. And so, but historically, we know what Tiger Woods is with his amount of championships that he's won, 82 times on the tour, 15 majors. But what he has done for golf, the golf industry as a whole, can never truly be valued at what he was able to accomplish. And to see him back out this week, for me, he is the greatest golfer of all time. And so, Penny, for your thoughts, is we're so excited to see Tiger Woods back out on the golf course this week.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, whenever I don't care if you like him or don't like him, but whenever you hear the name Tiger Woods and he is playing, you are watching. Other than that, you're finding something else to watch.
Absolutely. The golf tour is not the same. Nobody has been able to carry that mantle. When we look at other sports, there's always been somebody to carry that mantle, and nobody's been able to carry that mantle of being that polarizing figure on the golf tour. Yeah, there are great players out there, no doubt, but to literally have people, that's the reason why you tune in to watch. It was to watch Tiger, like you said, whether you wanted to see him lose or whether you were cheering for him to win, but it was just polarizing golf, and the charisma, the magneticism that he brings as an individual. And for us to watch him, we watched him grow up, on the tour, and now here we are approaching his 48th birthday next month, December. I know all the people on the senior tour are saying, please turn 50, Tiger. We need you out here to get like that. But all the guys who are on the tour today are indebted to Tiger Woods, because the money prize and purses and the TV deals and all of that were an explosion as a result of Tiger and his ability. The clothing that he made, golf clothing fashionable. And so, like I said, we're just excited to see him back out on tour this week.
Absolutely. And with that, we are at the end of Any Given Sunday on KUAW with George Walker, DJ Scatter running the show, my brother with another mother, Coach 24, Darwin Penny, and I am Brian Kress, the awesome voice. Be awesome, not angry, and you guys have yourself a phenomenal sports weekend.